Welcome to Pulse of the World, where we bring you critical updates from across the globe. Today's breaking news centers on a historic and deeply impactful legal ruling from the United Kingdom. The UK Supreme Court has issued a landmark judgment. Under the Equality Act 2010, the word woman is legally defined based on biological sex, not gender identity. This decision follows years of legal challenges and cultural debates, and is already rippling through British society, reshaping legal definitions, institutional policies, and public discourse. This ruling's origins go back to 2018, when the Scottish Parliament introduced a policy aimed at promoting gender balance on public boards. The policy sought to include trans women, individuals assigned male at birth who identify as women, as part of the legal definition of woman, provided they had a gender recognition certificate, GRC. Supporters of the legislation said it was a necessary step toward inclusivity. Critics, however, voiced concerns that the move diluted legal protections specifically designed for biological women. Women's advocacy groups quickly mounted a legal challenge. They argued that redefining woman to include individuals who are biologically male risked undermining sex-based rights and protections, especially in single-sex spaces such as women's shelters, changing rooms, hospital wards, and prisons. What began as a debate in Scotland soon escalated into a full-blown legal standoff, drawing attention from across the UK and Europe. After years of lower court deliberations, the matter reached the UK Supreme Court, where judges were tasked with interpreting whether the Equality Act's use of woman could legally include trans women. In a unanimous verdict, the justices ruled that the term refers exclusively to biological sex. As such, in the context of the Equality Act, woman means an individual born female. In his statement, Deputy President of the Supreme Court, Lord Hodge, acknowledged the sensitivity of the issue. He spoke directly to the competing interests involved. On one side, women's rights campaigners defending sex-based protections. On the other, transgender individuals seeking recognition, inclusion, and safety. Lord Hodge emphasized that the ruling was an interpretation of existing law, not a comment on societal values. This is not about diminishing anyone's identity or invalidating lived experiences, he said. It is about clarifying what the law, as written, currently provides. Importantly, the ruling does not strip transgender individuals of existing legal protections. Trans people remain covered under the protected characteristic of gender reassignment within the Equality Act. That includes protection from discrimination, harassment, and indirect discrimination, regardless of whether the individual possesses a GRC. Still, reactions to the decision have been swift and passionate. Some legal scholars and politicians hailed the ruling as a necessary clarification that strengthens women's rights. Cami Benito, leader of the Conservative Party, praised the court's clarity, saying, "Too many organizations have relied on ambiguous interpretations of the law. This decision reaffirms biological realities and strengthens legal certainty." On the other hand, LGBTQ plus advocates warn that the ruling may foster a climate of increased hostility toward trans individuals. Amnesty International UK, which intervened in the case, reiterated its commitment to protecting the rights of all marginalized groups. "We must ensure the ruling is not misused or weaponized," said CEO Sasha Deshmukh. This case was about legal definitions, not about excluding or invalidating people. The ruling has also prompted calls for legislative reform. Some lawmakers are pushing for a revision of the Equality Act to reflect modern understandings of gender and identity. Others believe the law should double down on biological sex-based protections to prevent future ambiguities. For now, the Supreme Court's judgment sets a precedent. Legal protections based on sex in the Equality Act apply specifically to biological sex. The real-world implications are already being felt. Schools and universities are reviewing policies on gender-segregated facilities. NHS trusts are reassessing how they assign patients to single-sex hospital wards. In the prison system, officials face renewed scrutiny over housing assignments and safety concerns following multiple high-profile cases involving transgender inmates. This decision also arrives amid a broader wave of legal and cultural reckonings across the Western world. In the United States, state legislatures remain deeply divided on how to legislate around gender identity and healthcare. In Spain, recent laws have expanded gender self-identification rights, while in Sweden, recent court decisions have emphasized biological sex in certain legal contexts. The UK now finds itself as one of the few liberal democracies to enshrine a biological definition of sex into its national legal framework. For women's rights groups, the ruling is a major victory. They argue that maintaining clear, biologically based definitions ensures the survival of sex-specific data collection, representation in politics, and resources targeted at female-specific health needs. Many feminists also say the ruling reinforces the idea that inclusion should not come at the cost of accuracy and protection. Conversely, trans rights advocates fear the decision may embolden extremist rhetoric. Some advocacy groups are already reporting a rise in hostile online discourse and increased polarization. Legal scholars warn that without parallel reforms or updated guidance from Parliament, public institutions may struggle to implement the ruling without backlash. The media response has been equally divided. Right-leaning outlets have heralded the ruling as a return to legal clarity and common sense. Progressive media voices worry it may undermine years of progress toward gender inclusivity and dignity. Social media platforms are awash with debates, both thoughtful and inflammatory, showing how deeply the ruling resonates with people's personal values and lived experiences. As for the Scottish government, which initiated the original legislation, officials have expressed disappointment. First Minister Fiona MacLeod stated, "We believe our law was fair, inclusive, and forward-looking. This ruling is a setback for gender equality, but we respect the authority of the court." She also vowed to explore legislative options to protect Scotland's autonomy in defining inclusion policies. In London, Parliament is expected to debate the implications of the judgment in the coming weeks. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are preparing to propose amendments to current laws and guidance. Some are calling for a cross-party commission to study the long-term legal and societal consequences of gender-related rulings. Ultimately, what's at stake is more than legal terminology. It's about how society defines inclusion, identity, and fairness. Can a democratic nation uphold sex-based protections while affirming the dignity of those whose identities fall outside traditional norms? Can legal clarity and compassion coexist in a framework that respects both rights and realities? Only time will tell how the UK chooses to navigate these turbulent waters. But one thing is certain, the conversation is far from over, and the ripple effects of this Supreme Court ruling will continue to shape policy, politics, and personal lives for years to come. For continuing coverage on this evolving story and more global developments that impact your world, subscribe now to Pulse of the World, your trusted voice in international news. Stay alert, stay informed, stay with Pulse of the World.